I just want to give a shout out to Unity Grand Valley in Grand Junction, Colorado, who uses some of our Sunday talks as their Sunday talk. Can we do a round of applause and some love for them? Welcome, guys. So this married man leaves work early on Friday, takes his paycheck, and parties with his buddy all weekend instead of going home. And then finally, when he returns home on Sunday night, he is greeted by an earful of upset and anger from his wife. You know, why didn't you come home? Why did you disappear for 3 days? Why didn't you even call? I was worried sick about you. And she just kept going on and on for about an hour with complaints and upset. And then finally she said, how would you like it if you didn't see me for a few days? And he said, oh, well, that would suit me just fine. So Monday went by and the man didn't see his wife. Tuesday went by and he didn't see her. Wednesday went by the same. He did not see her. But on Thursday, the swelling had gone down enough he could see her just through the corner of his left eye. Whew. All right. So when I was in seminary, they would have these guest ministers. The experienced minister would come and share a lot of their wisdom and insight. One of them was Reverend James Freeman. He was not only a minister, he was actually the director for 20 years of the seminary. He was also the director of Silent Unity, the prayer line. He wrote a number of books, a number of poems. His most famous thing, in 1949, he wrote the Prayer of Protection that we do every Sunday. Interestingly, in 1969, Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut, took a copy of the Prayer of Protection up on Apollo 11 on their moonwalk. And then in 1971, James Irwin, another astronaut, in Apollo 15, took a different poem called I Am There and actually left a microfilm of one of his poems called I Am There. So he's a bit of a Unity legend. He was 85 years old. So he gave a little lecture and he was answering some questions. And somebody asked this question. What is the biggest and most significant thing that you have learned in all your years of spiritual study? And here's what he said. I have learned that everyone in this life is hurting in some way. Every one of us is here to heal something. And our healing is an important part of our spiritual journey. So I have to say, I was surprised that he didn't say something a little more positive, uplifting, and inspiring, like the living Spirit of God dwells in you, or God loves you, God has a plan and purpose for your life. You know, if you through your faith in God, all things are possible, or if you believe, as Jesus said, you shall do the things that I've done and even greater things. I could think of a ton of things I thought he would say. And so I was surprised that he said that everyone is hurting and that healing is an important part of our journey. And I think the reason he didn't say one of those positive, uplifting things, because he already know we knew those things. So we focused on those things. But I think the reason he said it is because we don't like hearing the hard stuff. We don't like hearing the difficult stuff, the messy stuff. And then the second part of that is that, that he wanted to remind us that that healing that we all have to do is an important part of our spiritual life. You know, sometimes in our desire to live a better life, a more positive life, a more spiritual life, we can sometimes sweep under the rug and think it's not important, some of the stuff that we go through internally. You know, some of our pain and our wounds or some of the places that we don't want to go to. You know, sometimes we overlook it because we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to feel it. We don't want to go through that process. You know, and he gave an interesting interpretation, a fabulous one, of the parable of the lost sheep. It says, if a man owns 100 sheep and one wanders away, does he not leave the 99 on the hill to find the one that is lost? And when he finds it, he puts it on his shoulders and rejoices. God loves even the lost. And so his interpretation was that the number 100 in the Bible symbolically means wholeness. It represents a full life. It represents an abundant and prosperous life and the fullness of God in our lives. And that even when that we have the 99 blessings of all the good things that are going well, that sometimes in our lives there's one part of us that feels lost. A part that feels wounded or rejected or abandoned or ashamed or unworthy. And that he said that a part of our work in our spiritual life is to go after that and do our healing work. To bring that part of us that feels lost or hopeless or wounded back in so that we could feel that sense of wholeness and connection and that fullness of our relationship with God and that fullness of life. I ask you, where in your life do you have some part of you that feels lost, that feels wounded or abandoned? What part of your life would you say needs to be healed and needs a healing? We're in the second of our 6 weeks Lenten series called Space for Grace. Lent is that 40-day period before the miraculous resurrection on Easter. And the number 40 biblically symbolizes a period of discipline, devotion, and preparation. As Moses or Elijah and Jesus, those time, 40 days of preparation, of prayer and fasting, prepared them to bring forth something great and miraculous through themselves and into our world. And Lent really invites us to do our inner preparation with discipline, devotion, and to prepare ourselves spiritually to create a space for more of God's grace to work through something great through us. Last week we talked about use me. It was to create a space for more prayer time and contemplation, reflection with God, and to set an intention to say, here I am, God, use me. Let my life be served for you and through you to bless others. And finally, to live in the grace of knowing that we are supported in all that we do. And today, we're going to look at the idea of healing, that healing journey within us. Because I believe everyone's here in this life, that with our gifts we're meant to express. There's love we are meant to share. There are things we are meant to learn, things we are meant to discover, things we are meant to contribute and a difference we're here to make. And as a part of that spiritual journey, there's things that we are here to heal. And so we're going to look at the second step in Space for Grace, which is heal me. And so the healing journey really begins, as Eckhart Tolle says, is with a level of awareness and honesty about what's really going on within ourselves. Because often we don't always know what's going on within ourselves. We're not always honest about what we're feeling or where we're hurting or even what we desire in our lives. We often will just say, no, all's good, when it's not. We'll say it because we don't want to come across as weak, and so I think it takes practice for us to be more honest with ourselves. Practice to develop greater levels of self-awareness. And one of the ways we do that is to actually ask ourselves questions. So what area of my life am I hurting? What in me needs to be healed? Where in my life do I feel lost or betrayed or abandoned or rejected? Where in my life do I find myself constantly struggling? Where in my life do I feel stuck? Or what do I feel is really holding me back from living as fully and joyously a life as I want? And where do I keep repeating negative patterns? Either dating the same person or having the same argument or having the same financial struggles and levels of dissatisfaction. Eckhart Tolle says that every one of us has what he calls a pain body. And those are hurts and disappointments that we've had in our lives that we've not resolved, that we've ignored, denied, pretended, swept under the rug, and they still are in us as an energy, as negative pain and hurt in ourselves. And he says, whether we realize it or not, that energy is impacting our peace and our happiness. And it actually undermines and sometimes sabotages our success, our happiness, and our relationships. We'd rather make it look good on the outside sometimes than really go deep and see what's really going on. But the fact is our souls want to be liberated and have full expression. And it wants to be released from some of those negative energies and to have them be healed. And the key and the first step to it is awareness. We must be willing to be aware. In my first several years in ministry and doing counseling, I noticed the people who were 50, 60, 70, 80 would come in and they would talk for a moment about what was going on now, but it always went back to something that happened a long time ago that they didn't address, that they didn't face, they didn't deal with. That now, after all the kids and all the thing, it's like they were finally ready to take time to heal. Finally ready to face and deal and do the inner work because it hit a level where something was missing and it wasn't going to be replaced by success or money or achievements, that it had to be soul work. It had to be healing work. What's that line that says you can run but you can't hide? I mean, if it is a part of our path in our life, it's going to be there, and we need to make a commitment. Am I willing to take time to heal? And am I willing to be honest with myself and be more aware of what's really going on? And whether it's from family dysfunction or unhealthy boundaries, whatever the pattern might be, the question is, are we willing to be more aware and more honest and face it? Sugar Ray Leonard, the great boxer, it wasn't until he was in his 50s that he was willing even to admit to himself that he experienced sexual abuse and what a detrimental impact it had on his life. I think we have a hard time admitting to ourselves and being honest and letting ourselves be self-aware. Sometimes we think that being hurt seems like we're weak or we're failures. Sometimes we think vulnerability or being authentic and real is scary or embarrassing or not strong. Sometimes we think needing help or admitting we need help, shows some sign that we're not successful or we're not great. Actually, that desire to be honest and step on that healing path is a powerful, wonderful, and important step for us to make. One of the ways that I think is very healthy to at least get the start of awareness is by journaling. I'm not a journaler, I don't really like it, but I do journal when things aren't going so good. And I find that writing down the things that I'm feeling, where I feel stuck, really shows me what's going on. And when you do it long enough, it shows patterns. You end up starting writing some of the few things. I thought, didn't I write the same thing about somebody else 2 months ago? You end up seeing your own patterns, your own stuff. What happens with our painful feelings, we either do one or two things. We either bury it and deny it and hide it that way, or we create a story of what victims we are. Either way, journaling helps us find out what's really going on. To see what's actually written there actually helps us a lot and helps us to have a more realistic and healthy version of what's happening with us. And we become less afraid, less overwhelmed, because I'll tell you, the stories in our head are far more frightening than when you write it down. You actually see what's going on, and you're less overwhelmed or intimidated or controlled by it. Another important thing is to see a therapist or talk to a friend or do a workshop or enter a program, whatever it takes, with a willingness to be aware of what's really going on with us. It's a huge step to liberating ourselves and getting a level of healing. And so one thing is to just begin noticing where you feel hurt and what triggers you and what that pain feels like. Pay attention and notice to the story you tell yourself, like maybe life is unfair or whatever it is. Just observe. You don't even have to try and force or change anything. Just be honest and begin to observe, and things will begin to shift. Because the more we deny, the more we stuff, the more we bury, things come out sideways. That it will impact and undermine us subconsciously and sabotage our happiness. But the more honest we are, the more aware we are, it begins to help us be aware, and it begins to free us from the grip of the control of that, and we're more likely to change, transform, and be healed. Self-awareness is not easy, but it is an important thing. If we want to go deeper, to have a greater level of spiritual awareness and connection and happiness and fulfillment, we need to start being aware, because it will lead us to wholeness, and it really will create more space for God's grace. The second thing we need to do is to do a regular healing practice. Dr. David Hawkins says that there is one practice that scientific research shows that is the most effective technique when it comes to reducing stress, creating a greater sense of inner peace and relieving suffering, to help our physical and our mental well-being, to increase the level of love in our lives and our spiritual connection. But we don't like this practice. We don't like to do it. We'd rather do anything else. We'd rather turn to philosophy, astrology, psychology, reflexology, kinesiology, iridology, visualization, mediation, meditation, affirmations, astral projection, hormone injections. We'd rather drink green tea, learn NLP, electrolyze, jazzercise, colonics, aerobics, balance our chakras, cleanse our auras, study Zen, become a vegetarian, try microbiotic, go totally organic, to hot rock massage, to a sweet lodge. We even try tantric sex, and then we wonder what's next. And so we so dislike this technique, we rather try anything but. Anybody know what this is? The one technique that is absolutely healing and transforming? Those are all great, but here's the one. It is letting go. Here's what he says. He says, if you want to achieve spiritual mastery and a greater and closer relationship with God, you need to learn to let go and surrender your life to God. To surrender to the universe, surrender to your higher power, surrender it all, freely release it to God. In the same way that being aware is hard, letting go is hard. Letting go scares us. We feel like, oh, if I let go, what's going to happen? Will I fall apart? Will everything be okay? If we let go, it's almost like then I got no excuses. Sometimes letting go is scary. We think holding on is safer, but yet it's the opposite. Holding on can sometimes keep us stuck and trapped, and letting go is really the path to freedom. Notice, awareness is hard, but it's liberating and leads to healing. Letting go is hard, but it is freeing and liberating, and it leads us to healing. Our pain body that's in us, by the law of attraction, tends to attract more pain if we aren't willing to deal, if we just keep it stuffed. He said something really, really interesting that I like. He said, we always think it's our thinking and our negative thinking that attracts all the harm and pain in our lives. But he said it's not just our negative thinking. He said what it is the emotions and feelings we are attached to our thinking. That the emotion that we attach to our thinking and feeling has a stronger attracting power than just the thought alone. And our emotions are so powerful and important that if we release the emotion, that the thoughts will begin to dissolve. That if we connect and actually allow and surrender the emotion to God, that there will be a greater healing in our thinking and therefore then in our emotion as well. That if we think things like life is unfair, you go to the emotion that gets triggered and you willingly let go of the emotion. And then that thought begins to fade away. And so what he says is when you get triggered, what you need to do is don't attack it or blame yourself. So what you need to do is just love yourself right where you are. Allow yourself to feel that feeling, whether it's shame or whatever it is, and then allow yourself to give it to God. And do a simple little prayer. God, heal what needs to be healed in me and create a clean heart in me, O Lord. He said as simple as that, but you have to focus on the emotion. Let go of the emotion. Because if we desire a better life, we need to do a healing practice daily and regularly, and it needs to be that healing practice of letting go, particularly focusing on the emotion of the things that trigger you. Release it and give it to God. Surrender it all to God, and believe me, God will bring the healing. Things will begin to open up and lighten up in our lives. It's got to be done consistently and regularly. Somebody said, if you ain't changing, you're choosing. And what's that other line? If you always do what you always done, you'll always get what you always got. And so the question is, if you really want to heal, if you want to create more space for God's grace, if you want a spiritual breakthrough, that our own inner healing needs to be an important aspect of that process. And we need to be doing this particular practice. It's a powerful practice of releasing and letting go and surrendering the emotional pain and hurt to God. And then things will begin to unfold in great and wonderful ways. Healing is about acknowledging the hurt, being honest about it, and then willing to release the emotional pain to God. And the final one is that we need to, what I would call, embrace the tapestry of life. 1976, Stevie Wonder won a bunch of Grammy Awards for an album called Songs in the Key of Life. Anybody remember that album? And so he gave an acceptance speech. I was like 9 years old or something, and it just rocked me. I was so inspired. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. And so here's what he said. I'll skip the Stevie Wonder impression for you, but here's what basically he said. He said, I want to give thanks for all the people who have loved me, supported me, and believed in me and encouraged me. I'd like to give thanks also for all the things that went well, all the good breaks and opportunities that I had. But I'd also like to give thanks for all the people who didn't believe in me, who discouraged me, who didn't think I would succeed, and for all the things that didn't go my way, and all the breaks I didn't get, because together they have all helped make me who I am today. I thought that was one of the most amazing things that I ever heard at 9 years old. Because what he's saying is embrace it all. Everything in your life is there for you to help you heal and to know that you're whole, complete, and lacking in nothing. That life is a tapestry of highs and lows, of love, of heartbreaks, of successes, of failures. It's a whole tapestry of all. And it's all of those experiences that help make us who we are today. All of those experiences is what makes life richer, life more meaningful, and life more fulfilling. Everything in your life is there to teach you, to guide you, to uplift you. Think of something in your life that isn't going so great, an area you feel wounded or hurt or disappointed or struggling with. And I would guarantee that that particular thing is there in your life to help you heal. Listen to the words in the book of James when he says, "Count it all joy, brethren, when you face trials of any kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And let perseverance finish its work in you, so that you may know that you are whole, complete, and lacking in nothing." And so what it is saying is those challenging experiences and those areas where we feel wounded and hurt are there to help us heal and know that we are whole, complete, and lacking in nothing. It's important for us to accept the gift and the lesson and blessing for everything in our lives. To help us become better and not bitter. I know somebody who's got a very, very good life. Successful, PhD, rich, travel, all kinds of stuff, and they hit a wall and triggered a devastating amount of pain in them. And the initial reaction was a little more travel, a little more friends, a little more this, add a little more that, and it wasn't working. And I love that this person was willing to realize that there was something that was time to heal, something deep in their lives that they weren't willing to address or face, and over the next several years was willing to do that work individually with a counselor, doing therapeutic programs. And I would say today that this person today feels more at peace with themselves, feels greater sense of worthiness and self-confidence. There's more honesty and intimacy in this person's relationship. Truly has had a breakthrough, and the breakthrough wasn't changing anything outside. It was changing something inside. It was being willing to do that inner work, willing to take time to heal. It's easy for us to think, oh, this little hurt thing is not a big deal. I could just move on with my life. I like to think of it like going for a walk and you got a pebble in your shoe. Like it's bugging you, but it's really not excruciating. It's not that bad. You're busy. You don't have time. You have places to go, people to see. You have time to bend down, take down your shoe, roll the thing out, put it back. And then people might look at you and say, what's the matter with that person? What's wrong with them? Why are they stopping on their journey? But here's the issue, is that over time, that rock will cause a blister, and there's going to be some pain. Eventually, it'll affect how far you move forward and how far you go. And that's why it's important for us to do that healing work now. James Freeman says that every single one of us is hurting in some way, and as a part of our spiritual journey, a part of knowing the fullness of God and living the life we came to live, doing our healing work is a vital and important part. NCAA stuff's going on. There's a wonderful quote that says, everybody wants to win, but not everybody's got the will to prepare to win. Everybody wants a breakthrough. The question is, are you willing to do the spiritual inner work that's needed for you to have the breakthrough you are looking for in your life? Are you willing to be more aware and honest about what feelings and what hurts are going on inside of you? Are you willing to do your healing work by practicing letting go your emotional pain every day and every moment it comes up? And are you willing to embrace the tapestry of life, that all the highs and lows and ups and downs, and use it, as a part of your healing journey? If you want to go deeper, have breakthroughs, you got to create some space for God's grace. And the second step for that is to say, God, heal me. God bless you all.